Welcome into Outkick the Show. I'm your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Mondays, wherever you may be. I'm just now looking at my face and my beard, and I'm like, damn, I really need to shave and trim up things before I go on television here in about an hour. So you get the Grizzly Adams version on Periscope and Facebook. If you're listening on audio, as lots of you do, you don't even know the excitement and the raw sex appeal and charisma that you are missing right now. We got a lot to get to, all right? A lot to get to. Let's dive right in. I'm going to give you a roadmap of where we're headed today. I'm going to give you my NCAA title gambling picks. Not the kind of guy to brag or draw attention to myself, but I am 6-0 in the past 6 gambling picks that I have given you in the NCAA tournament. I got all 4 of the Elite 8 games right. I got both of the Final 4 games right, and I'm going to go continue my run tonight. Hope you jumped on the train and haven't made the mistake of trying to fade me. Rick Barnes, Tennessee or UCLA. What is the play going to be there for Rick Barnes? Antonio Brown has gone off the reservation in his feud with Juju Smith. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what's going on, but that is a messy situation. Zion and Duke allegations that Nike was paying Zion Williamson's mom for multiple years and that they helped steer him to go to play at Duke. Why has Nike so far avoided all the blame just about as a company in this shoe scandal that has all fallen on the situation with Adidas? We will dive into that. And WrestleMania last night. I don't know how many of you stayed up and watched it. I stayed up and watched it till the end. I'll give you my takeaway on WrestleMania. But we begin with the gambling picks because my goal in life is to make all of you filthy rich. All right? Let me give you my picks. I am on Texas Tech plus 1.5. I love the under, even though it's all the way down to 118. I think points are going to be at an insane premium here. So I like Texas Tech plus 1.5, and I like the under. I gave out, in terms of most outstanding player, Kyle Guy at 9-1 before the Final Four started. I was blown away this morning when I woke up and saw that you could still get Kyle Guy at only plus 450. I don't know what people are watching. I don't know how they have missed this, but Kyle Guy at plus 450 is an absolute steal. Those are all the picks that I'm going to get you. I also took overtime at 10-1. Those are the 4 plays that I have tonight. 2 that pay off pretty well, 4.5-1 and 10-1. And again, Texas Tech plus 1.5, as well as the under on 118. So I am going to watch this. Looking forward to it. I will say this, as a part of a member officially of an old man now, who is now 40 years old. The game doesn't start until 9:20 Eastern. Basically, I live on East Coast time because my show is on so early, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Is there anybody out there who likes this game starting at 9:20 Eastern? I mean, that is just way too damn late. A sporting event that ends at midnight, especially after WrestleMania that didn't end until 12:30, and they had a damn dance party that took like 5 minutes in the middle of it. Old man television. They need to be over before midnight. That's not crazy. Have every major sporting event over that is taking place in the eastern part of the country by 11 o'clock Eastern. Period. Easy play, easy fix, no issues at all, and boom, we are gone, and we have absolutely no issue at all. All right? It would have zero issue going forward. I think it would be phenomenal. I think it would be perfect. West Coast people, sack up, all right? Go into work early, leave early, all right? I don't have any sympathy for you West Coast people. 15% of the population lives on the West Coast. We can't allow 15% of the population to dictate what the other 85% want. The purpose of American life and the entire purpose of democracy in general is that the majority rules. If 85% of us don't live on the West Coast, why in the world are we letting the West Coast control all of our sleep patterns on the East Coast? We've got to declare independence against the West Coast. Do it what's best for the majority, not what's best for all you West Coast losers. And by the way, I like the West Coast. But you shouldn't get to dictate what happens to the East Coast. Nobody on the East Coast gets to dictate to the West Coast very often. 5:30 start for the West Coast. Start this game at 8:30. 8:30, it's an hour earlier. Boom, everything's solved. If you can't get home by 5:30, that's your fault. Go to a bar or go to work earlier. That's my solution. All right, the end of the game situation. I tweeted some about this. It was my 40th birthday. I was having dinner. I was having drinks. Watch the end of the game situation right before I go out to go have a good time with a few people, all right? So here's my thoughts in general on this. That was the right foul call. I thought there was a substantial difference in the Auburn ending and in the Purdue and the Tennessee ending, and it is the distinction I would use to make a call in that situation. If you hit the shooter while he is in the shooting process, that's a foul because it impacts his ability to actually make the jumper, right? That, to me, is when you call a foul on contact. You should not call fouls when shooters kick out their legs and make contact after they have already let the ball go. So I would distinguish between the way the Tennessee-Purdue game ended with Carson Edwards should not have been a foul and the way the Auburn-UVA game ended should have been a foul. Okay, I think that's a big distinction. If you make contact with a three-point shooter while they are in the process of shooting, that is definitely a foul. If you make contact with somebody because you kick out your legs when you come down, that is not a foul. And also, I will say this. I go after officials all the time on this show and everywhere else because I want them to be perfect. The double dribble missed call is a very easy call to miss. I don't have a problem with the double dribble missed call. I think it's a missed call that happens most of the time. I wish that officials were perfect. I am a pretty aggressive viewer of the game. I didn't see it in real time. I didn't see the double dribble happen in real time. I had Bruce Pearl on the television show this morning. He didn't see it in real time either. I understand that by letter of the law, it was the call. But if you're Auburn, first of all, Jared Harper hasn't missed a free throw in the entire tournament. If he makes that free throw, then you're up 3 and you're intentionally fouling, trying to put UVA on the line to shoot a 1-and-1. All right, that's one aspect of this story that's going to happen. Secondly, the bigger issue for Auburn was allowing the inbounds pass and allowing Kyle Guy to get as good of a look from 3 as he got with whatever it was, 1.6 seconds left or whatever was going on there. This was not, in my opinion, a game that Auburn was cost by the officials. I thought Auburn put itself in bad position, letting Kyle Guy get possession there and missing the free throw like Jared Harper did because otherwise Auburn is on in to the postseason. And by the way, in the championship game, how about credit for Kyle Guy on the insanely difficult 3 that he hit in the corner there to make it a 1-point game? I mean, Kyle Guy, give him credit. This is why I think he's going to be the most outstanding player if UVA wins. He drained all 3 of those free throws in a dome with a trip to the championship game on the line and everybody watching and every other scenario there. And he drained the 3 with like 20 some odd seconds left. Now, Virginia has been insanely fortunate, and you need a lot of good luck. They were very lucky to beat Purdue. They were very lucky to beat Auburn. But I think in general, the reason why Auburn lost was not because of the officiating. The double dribble missed call was not egregious. The bigger issue for Auburn was allowing that inbounds pass into the short corner. How do you allow that pass to happen at all and allow the best UVA three-point shooter to get a three-point opportunity there? I don't get it. I don't think it was the thing that decided the game, but that's my analysis of the end of the game. All right. Couple of other things here let's talk about Rick Barnes. I don't know because it might happen while we are watching the show today or while I'm on television. I think we'll get an official decision by Rick Barnes on whether to go to whether to go to UCLA or stay at Tennessee. I think Rick Barnes will stay at Tennessee. Could I be wrong? 1,000,000,000% yes. But here's why I think Rick Barnes stays at Tennessee. First of all, he's 65 years old. Going to be 65 years old at the start of the next season. I don't know how many years he thinks he's going to continue to coach. Let's say it's 5 to 7. Let's say he's going to coach till he's 72 years old. I think Tennessee will give him a basically lifetime contract like Coach Cal just got. He'll have almost no pressure on him, and he'll be able to build back Tennessee into being a Sweet 16 caliber team, again, because he's recruiting well. He's got some 5 stars that he thinks he's going to bring in, and there'll be no doubt about him leaving going forward. But I will say this. What is the argument for why Rick Barnes would go to UCLA? I think the reason why Rick Barnes would go to UCLA is pretty simple. Because Grant Williams probably is going to leave. Because Jordan Bone is going to leave. Because this is in general, I think, a rebuild now that he's got at Tennessee, assuming Grant Williams and Jordan Bone both leave. And so if he goes to the West Coast, the Pac-12 is a drastically inferior conference when it comes to basketball. Other than Jerry Stackhouse, who I think is a total Hail Mary by Vanderbilt. If you look at the strength of SEC basketball coaching, you have additions. Eric Musselman, really solid hire by Arkansas. You have the hire of Buzz Williams by Texas A&M. Really solid hire there. You have who I think is a pretty solid hire by Alabama in Nate Oates. Other than Jerry Stackhouse, everybody is getting better, definitely, in the SEC from a coaching perspective. 1 to 14, you can make a strong argument that the SEC has the highest caliber of talent of all basketball coaching, and they're certainly paying at that level. So if you're making the case for why Rick Barnes to LA could make sense, it's because the Pac-12 and the West Coast in general is a basketball wasteland right now. Other than the job that Mark Few is doing at Gonzaga, which coach in which program do you look at and say, oh, I could see that coach on the West Coast winning a national championship? Mark Few, yes. Sean Miller doesn't look like he's going to necessarily be able to keep his job at Arizona. Do you feel good about anybody else? Maybe Washington, maybe Oregon? I don't. So I think the West Coast offers an easier route to top talent and to championships in theory if Rick Barnes thinks he could get it rolling at UCLA. Now, the pressure is a lot higher. The pressure would be a lot higher on Rick Barnes, and that's disputable about whether or not it's actually any easier to win a championship right now at UCLA than it is at Tennessee. Tennessee has top 5, top 10 facilities in the country, top 10 attendance, huge support for the basketball program overall, and Rick Barnes has been treated incredibly well. So I think, in general, the smart decision that allows him to finish out his coaching career and have a really substantial impact in the years ahead is to stay at Tennessee, but we will see exactly what will go on there. And so I also think if you're UCLA, if I were making this decision, I would go after Bruce Pearl. And here's what my argument I would say. If Rick Barnes decides to leave Tennessee, I think Phil Fulmer's got an easy coaching hire. I think he goes straight to Bruce Pearl. Great friendship with Bruce Pearl. Phil Fulmer does. And I think he says, Bruce, are you interested in this job? First call that he makes. He says, I'm not even going to do a coaching search any further, Bruce Pearl, if you are willing to leave Auburn and come to coach back at Tennessee again. I think that's the first call that Phil Fulmer makes if Rick Barnes leaves for UCLA. And I don't know the answer as to how Bruce Pearl would respond. He may respond, I'm going to be loyal to Auburn because Auburn gave me a chance after my job, after I was let go. He may say, and I don't know, he may say, yes, I would love to come back and finish my career at Tennessee. Make me an offer. I'll sign a lifetime contract right now. I don't think it's going to be about money. And I understand Auburn people are like, oh, Tennessee is a much better job than Auburn. All right, the fan support is infinitely better. Facilities are infinitely better. Recruiting is easier. Tennessee cares more about basketball than Auburn does. Historically, Tennessee, right up there at number 2, Missouri, Tennessee, and Alabama all have a claim to be the second best historic job in the SEC, depending on how you want to slice and dice history. Plus, Bruce Pearl went to 6 straight NCAA tournaments there, and he's incredibly beloved. I don't know what he would say. I think Phil Fulmer hopes he doesn't have to make that decision. But Knoxville is a really good place to live. I think Pearl and his family, particularly Steven, who you could argue could get the job after Bruce Pearl leaves, I think it is it's an intriguing decision, okay? An intriguing decision that would be made. Again, you look at attendance, you look at fan support, you look at revenue. Nobody else in the SEC is close to Kentucky other than Tennessee. Tennessee's going to be top 5 in attendance. They draw 20,000 per game, nearly on average in Knoxville. The program produces a lot of interest and a lot of talent, and there's pretty good talent there. So we'll see what actually ends up happening there. But that's the Rick Barnes decision. We'll have to cut and put this thing out immediately because I feel like Rick Barnes is going to make a decision publicly in the next little bit. All right, let's talk about Antonio Brown versus Juju Smith-Schuster. This is a crazy story to me. And I think that Antonio Brown has officially spiraled out of control. If you remember, I came on here and I said, straightforward, I think Antonio Brown deserves credit for all of the moves he made and the money that he has locked up for himself in leaving the Steelers and ending up with the Raiders. But I thought Antonio Brown would let it go. He has gone off the reservation himself. He's gone off the deep end. He's making himself look awful on social media in the way that he's responding to Juju Smith-Schuster. He went on Instagram earlier today and posted a DM from Juju Smith-Schuster in 2015. And back when he was a wide receiver at USC, Juju Smith-Schuster sent this message. What's up, AB? I'm a receiver at the University of Southern California. I appreciate all your work. You're a great man. I'm disappointed in the fact that he used the wrong "your." You're a great man on and off the field. Do you have any tips that can help take my game to the next level? Thanks, man. By posting this, somehow Antonio Brown thinks this makes him look better. And I don't get it. I don't get it at all how he could be so clueless. If anything, this puts me firmly in the Team Juju camp, because if you're a college kid and you reach out to somebody who is performing at a high level in your exact field and ask him for tips, to me, that is the perfect amount of humility that you would hope a college kid would show. I feel bad now because I get deluged all the time with people asking me to give them tips who are in college. And my answer, I don't have time to respond to everybody all day long, is I can't give you that answer, right? But it's a lot fewer people who are high-level receivers that are reaching out for help to Juju Smith-Schuster, to Antonio Brown. I don't know who's advising Antonio Brown, but I'm thinking it's going to be an utter and unmitigated disaster now in Oakland based on the way he's behaving. Dude, you made more money. You got out of Pittsburgh. Leave that story alone. I don't know what he's trying to do now. I think he's hurt that the team likes Juju Smith-Schuster more, that his teammates enjoyed Juju Smith-Schuster more. Dude, if you get in a fight with your quarterback and don't show up for multiple days of practice, why would it surprise you that people would like the receiver who actually shows up for practice and doesn't get in a fight with his quarterback more? Just like James Conner is probably more beloved in the Steeler locker room right now than Le'Veon Bell, because he showed up and continued to work with him. He's going to eventually be throwing Derek Carr under the bus, John Gruden under the bus. I predict that this is going to end disastrously. I don't know how, and I don't know when, but if they're not winning, Antonio Brown is going to continue to lose his mind on social media. It's a really bad look for him. I don't know what he's remotely thinking in the way that he's behaving right now, but I can't imagine how any reasonable person can look at Antonio Brown's social media history of late and his unprompted war with Juju Smith-Schuster and say anything other than his emotions have gotten the better of him and he's spending way too much time obsessing with this situation. You made a lot of money. You got a guarantee. Don't continue to go down that road over and over and over again. Move on, dude. Move on and handle it. People are like, oh, well, let's talk about Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger has nothing to do in this story. Ben Roethlisberger has absolutely zero to do with this story at all. I'm Team Juju. Antonio Brown has lost me in the way that he's responded here. All right. These Zion Duke allegations. Michael Avenatti, who is formerly known as Stormy Daniels' porn attorney, has been a Trump critic and everything else. But the evidence that he has marshaled and put out on social media and elsewhere is pretty compelling that Duke was paying college players and their families just like they were paying people at Adidas. Now, we all knew this, right? Because there's no way that Adidas would be paying as much money as they were if they weren't competing with Nike. And in fact, there are text messages saying, hey, Adidas needs to hook up our school like UNC and Duke and Kentucky are getting hooked up too. But if Nike has Zion Williamson's mom on retainer and they are paying her for years, how in the world has Nike tried to make Adidas look bad while avoiding all the blame themselves here? This starts to smell to me to the highest magnitude. And what it looks like to me is that Nike, when you consider that they got Avenatti arrested right before he was going to publish all this stuff, it looks like Nike has got the FBI and the Justice Department in their back pocket doing their work and going after competing companies and dragging them down. This is an unbelievably messy situation, and I think everybody out there needs to start to pay attention to this and ask the question, why did Nike come off clean here? The government didn't arrest any of their employees. The government didn't raid any of their offices. The government didn't charge Nike with any wrongdoing at all, when it appears that Nike is every bit as dirty as Adidas. Now, on a larger scale, if you watch this show or listen to my show or read my articles, you know that I don't think the FBI should be involved in this investigation. I think we have way too much criminal investigations in this country for things that aren't that serious in the grand scheme of things. If you want to prosecute in this case, the easiest prosecution is tax avoidance, right? Not paying your taxes if these kids are being paid cash and their families, and I bet it's not going on their tax returns. Okay, if you want to go after them for tax evasion, that's at least a case I can understand. But the government didn't do that. They argued that the shoe companies were fraudulently committing crimes by paying players, which could lead to NCAA violations. What? First of all, everybody gets NCAA violations. Secondly, they're actually benefiting from their fraud. This would be like if Bernie Madoff had actually made everybody money and the crime had still been alleged to be fraud. This doesn't make sense to me at all. So Nike is being protected here. I don't think Avenatti has clean hands, but this happens all the time, right? If you ever work in the criminal justice system, it's very rare that you have entirely honest actor and entirely dishonest actor. I know that's what social media likes to believe happens. There are 100% good people and there are 100% evil people. The reality is most people are somewhere in between. And the nuance here is getting lost. And I don't understand at all how Nike has escaped all blame here, how most Nike schools have escaped blame. I think that they made a deal with the government, and Adidas being a foreign company, they threw Adidas to the wolves, tried to make Adidas look like the bad guys, even though Nike was at least as complicit as Adidas was. So this is a story worth following, worth reading about, and worth consuming. All right, final comments here. I believe I've talked about everything I said I would, except for WrestleMania. I watched WrestleMania last night. I thought that the best match was Triple H's match against the Guardians of the Galaxy dude. And I thought that was the most entertaining match. I want Hulk Hogan back fully a part of the WWE. I know Hulk Hogan has had all sorts of issues, but I was glad that he was back. And I am excited to see where the WWE is going to go forward. I thought the final triple match between Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and the other girl, it was just okay. Just an okay match. I didn't think it rose to the level of being the main event. And so I stayed up late. My kids stayed up late. We all watched WrestleMania. Yes, you can bet on wrestling. There are all sorts of numbers out there. Most of the favorites won, but every now and then, big-time underdogs win as well. All right, I appreciate all of you for coming and hanging out. We'll be live tomorrow. I'll be live on television in about a half hour talking about gambling on tonight's game. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Coverage. Appreciate all of you hanging out with me, spending time with us. This is Outkick the Show. DBAP, boys and girls, unless you need to SBAP. I'll see you guys. Bye. Love you. Thank you, Facebook.